Picture a city sitting at the top of the world, 2.5 miles up. So high the air's thin enough to leave you gasping. 50 years earlier, there was nothing here. And then, it's one of the biggest cities on the planet. Bigger than London, richer than Madrid. People gamble away fortunes in a single night. They drink wine shipped in from Spain, wear silk woven in China, finish the look with hats from Paris. They import everything, and I mean everything. There's just one thing this city doesn't do. It doesn't make anything. Nothing, except metal. And the day the metal runs out, the whole place goes dark, like somebody blew out a candle. Think that's ancient history? Stick around, because we're running this exact same movie right now, today, with oil. Welcome to Strategies and Legends, the channel that dissects history through a strategic lens. We're going to figure out how this city became the richest place on Earth, who actually paid for it, and why the whole thing came crashing down. Because Potosí isn't a story about being rich, it's a story about a trap. The same trap that swallows anybody who confuses having a resource with building an economy. And that trap has a name. We'll get there. 1545, high in the Andes, in what's now Bolivia. The legend goes like this. A local herder named Diego Hualpa is out chasing a stray animal, gets caught by nightfall, builds a fire to stay warm. Next morning, he pokes through the ashes and finds a ribbon of pure silver. The heat had melted metal straight out of the ground. True or not, the discovery was real, and it was insane. The Cerro Rico, the rich hill, wasn't a vein of silver. It was practically an entire mountain of the stuff. Now here's the timing. Spain in 1545 is a war machine that's permanently broke, always fighting somebody, always short on cash. And it just found the tap. It's about to crank it wide open. What happens next is one of the wildest city explosions in history. In a few decades, a full city rises up at 13,000 feet, in a place where almost nothing grows. By around 1610, Potosí has roughly 160,000 people. That's London. That's Paris. In the middle of nowhere. And it's a city of pure excess. Dozens of churches dripping with silver, gambling dens, theaters, parties that ran for weeks. They say a single wedding could swallow a fortune in food and wine. Money flowed so hard it basically stopped meaning anything. But here's the detail that matters. This obscenely rich city makes nothing. At 13,000 feet, you can't really farm. So the food comes from far away. The wine comes from Spain. The fine cloth from China and Europe. Tools, mercury, livestock, all shipped in. Why grow it or build it when you can just buy it with silver? That, right there, is the trap. When one resource pays that well, nobody bothers doing anything else. Why be a farmer or a craftsman when the mine pays 100 times more? So one by one, every other line of work dies off. And you're left with exactly two activities. Dig it up, spend it. Economists have a name for this today. They call it Dutch disease. One resource so profitable it strangles everything else in the economy. Potosí is the textbook case, 3 centuries before the textbook existed. And we have to say it plainly because it's the heart of this story. That wealth was built on a cost that never showed up in anybody's books. Start with the men. A system of forced labor called the Mita ordered indigenous communities to send their men down into the tunnels, in rotation, into conditions that are hard to even put into words. The cold, the bad air, the cave-ins, then the mercury. They used it to pull silver out of the poor ore, and it slowly poisoned the workers handling it. The locals had a name for the mountain. They called it the one that eats men. So here's the truth about the business model. It was profitable because it never paid its real price. The human cost was treated as free. But a bill you don't write down doesn't disappear. It always comes due. And then, like clockwork, the mountain empties out. The easy silver runs dry. Now you're digging deeper, farther, more expensively. Mercury gets pricey, and from the 1600s on, the silver just declines. Slowly, year after year. But remember, the city never built anything else. No industry, no real farming, no backup plan. The whole thing balanced on a single pillar: silver. Pull that pillar, and there's nothing underneath. The fortune dries up. The merchants pack up and leave, and the people, they flee. A city of 160,000 hollows out, decade by decade, until it's a ghost town clinging to a hollowed-out mountain. And here's the part that should stop you cold. Potosí didn't fall because it ran out of riches. It fell because it never turned those riches into anything that lasts. It spent the present and never once bought the future. If this is starting to sound familiar, good, because we're running it again, right now, in real time. Venezuela sits on the largest proven oil reserves on Earth. It holds almost 20% of the world's oil reserves, the largest of any country on the planet. That's its Cerro Rico, black gold instead of silver. And just like Potosí, it bet everything on the one thing. At the peak, oil made up more than 90% of the country's export earnings. Everything else smothered. Instead of using its oil income to build a diversified economy, the country let petroleum revenue crowd out every other sector, tying its growth almost entirely to the price of crude. Same Dutch disease, same reflex. Why farm? Why manufacture when the oil pays for all of it? So the country ended up importing its basics, a nation of black gold, importing its own bread. Then the tap closed. Oil went from more than $100 a barrel in 2014 to under $30 by early 2016, sending the country into a downward spiral. And the result was one of the worst economic collapses in modern history. The economy shrank by roughly 3/4 between 2014 and 2021. Hyperinflation wiped out wages and savings overnight, and, exactly like Potosí, the people ran. More than 7.5 million Venezuelans fled across the borders, one of the biggest displacement crises on the planet. A city empties out, a country empties out, 400 years apart, the exact same machine. Lesson 1. A resource is not an economy. Money coming out of the ground doesn't make you rich, it makes you paid. Real wealth is the ability to produce goods, skills, industries. Potosí had the income, it never built the capability. So when the income dried up, there was nothing left holding it together. Lesson 2. The treasure that kills everything else, that's Dutch disease again. When one resource pays too well, it scares off everything else. Farming dies, industry dies, because nothing can compete. You end up with an economy standing on one leg, and an economy on one leg. The day somebody kicks the leg, it goes down. Lesson 3. A boom is not a plan. Every boom ends. The only question that matters is what you do while it's running. Potosí spent it all. Venezuela spent it all. Now compare that to Norway, which took its oil money and parked it in a giant fund for future generations. The difference between getting rich and surviving is what you do with the peak, before the crash. The mountain's still there, in Bolivia. Cracked, fragile, half caved in, people still dig in it for a few grams. Potosí didn't fall to bad luck. It fell because it believed that wealth gushing out of the ground would last forever. It mistook a lucky break for a strategy. And the real lesson is that this mistake never gets old. Yesterday it was silver in the Andes. Today it's oil under Venezuela. Tomorrow it'll be something else. But the trap never changes. So let me ask you, which countries do you think are still living under the curse of Potosí right now, rich in the ground but unable to turn it into a future? And which ones actually beat the trap? Drop it in the comments. Subscribe for the next economic autopsy.